Virtual Sewing Guild, and I always get questions from people on how to fix things. And one of the main questions is, what do I do if my project pops out of the hoop? Well, hopefully it hasn't happened to you, but it has happened to most of us. So what do we do? Well, I'm just going to give you a brief, I'm going to show you what to do, but I've already done a few steps. So I have my stabilizer hooped. I'm doing a design, and I chose to do one with just a straight stitch so you could really see the process of lining this up. So I'm going to pretend that this project popped out of the hoop. Okay, so it's completely out of the hoop. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Well, first thing I recommend is, did you notice that I did a basting stitch around here? For me, that's the key on how to get this to line up. So I'm going to hoop a totally new piece of stabilizer. Once your stabilizer is hooped, go ahead and put it on the sewing machine. Put your machine back to the very beginning, make sure your baste is activated, and then take your project and slide it onto the machine. And my needle is already lined up for the first stitch of my basting. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put my hand over a little here, so I'm sorry if I get in the way. But what I want to do is make that needle go exactly in the corner of that basting. Now sometimes I have to raise my needle because I had it down, which is fine. Now it might do a few tie-off stitches. Let's get that message cleared. Okay. Now we want to make sure that it goes exactly into the stitch. So I'm going to hand walk it so you can see it go in. And I had to move that just slightly to get that to go into the exact place it needed to go. I'll hand walk another one, and you can see I'm just slightly off. I make it go exactly into the position that it needs. It looks like I'm doing about every other stitch. You might do every stitch. And the key is, most of the time, people have an issue when they get down to this corner. I don't know why, but that just seems like where most of our issues come in. But if we can get our first row lined up exactly, and I'm going a little faster than I would if I wasn't filming this. Okay, but you see what I'm doing? I'm making sure it goes into the hole every single time. Now, like I said, the corner is the key. You can see mine lines up really well. So we're going to continue across the bottom. Again, making sure, and you might have to pull it up just a little bit. It might be a little bit of an angle. But once we get this part done, usually the next two sides go pretty well. And as you can see, they're lining up. If they weren't, I would stop and make sure they line up. So now we have that all basted back in place, and I would advance to the stitch that I left off. Now, for the sake of this design, I'm just going to start at the beginning because I want you to see that it lines up exactly perfect. So I'm just going to do a few stitches over this, and look at that. It is exactly lined up. Now, I do need to tell you that that is a process for doing it, but if you've done a more dense design, there's a chance that you've got a little bit of shrinkage in your design, and that's why it's so important to stabilize well, because you don't want any shrinkage. But if you use this technique and then advance to the stitch, you should be able to get it pretty well. You should be able to get it lined up very, very well for excellent results. So the key, Be sure to always use your basting feature whether you need it or not, because then it's going to allow you to have this fabulous way to line things up if your project pops out of the hoop. From my sewing machine to yours, happy creating.